It is being said that Iran has reopened the strait. According to, first it was Donald Trump who went to Truth Social and said these exact words. Iran has just announced that the Strait of Iran is fully open and ready for full passage. Thank you. Interesting, I think, gaffe there, calling it the Strait of Iran. But then a source close to, according to reports, Parliament Speaker Gali Boff said that this opening is actually practically limited based on the fact that there's now a 10-day ceasefire between Lebanon, Hezbollah included, and Israel. And these conditions, as part of a practically limited reopening, is that all passage is rerouted through Iranian territorial waters via Larak Island. Only commercial ships, number 2 here, are allowed, with Iran deciding which ships qualify, enemy-linked vessels excluded, and tows still required for security provision and passage. And then all transit coordinated by the IRGC Navy, with Iran fully controlling passage through the strait. So, Scott, maybe you can react to this, because there's been a flurry of developments that have led up to this, warnings by Iran about the Red Sea and Bab el-Mandeb, the ceasefire, which saw Israel and Lebanon come to an agreement on this, and then Israel's breaking in the beginning. Now it seems like things have died down a bit, and Trump is guaranteeing that Israel won't attack during these 10 days, and Iran making good on its word, saying it would do something in goodwill around this ceasefire, because it's been pressuring this since the very beginning of these negotiations with the U.S. So talk about your thoughts and assessment on where we are now.
Said the ceasefire wouldn't have happened unless the United States recognized the futility of continuing military operations. So it's the United States that's looking for an off-ramp. Iran, too, wants an off-ramp, but it's not going to, make concessions that the United States and Israel haven't earned on the battlefield, and the United States and Israel have earned nothing on the battlefield. I think people need to understand that strategically, the United States and Israel lost this conflict. They've achieved nothing. None of their objectives have been achieved. Iran has emerged with the regime intact, continuing to be able to launch ballistic missiles with great effectiveness and total control of the Strait of Hormuz. Iran hasn't yielded on any of the points regarding nuclear enrichment, etc. And yet here we are with Trump declaring victory, because this is what it's all about. This is about political issues. This isn't about real practical issues. This is about how Donald Trump can spin things to his political advantage so that he can declare that without his decisive intervention, nothing have happened. So we're just watching a giant political game in process. The Strait of Hormuz is open in the way that the Iranians have determined it to be open. And Donald Trump can crow all he wants about this, that, and the other thing, but whose hands on the handle controlling the spigot? It's not an American hand; it's an Iranian hand, and that which they have opened, they can close down. So, now we have to see how Trump, goes forward with this. Whether he will ignore the Iranian statement, continue to double down on the role he played, or will he, as he has done in the past, suddenly declare the Iranians to be liars and thieves and scoundrels and threaten and bluster more? But the problem is, threaten and bluster more what? I know that Colonel McGregor is out there talking about, a major American offensive that's going to begin next week. To do what? With what? We're not bringing anything to the table that we haven't already brought. And any target worth hitting has already been hit. Anything that we're going to hit from now on is an empty building. I mean, the Iranians have shuffled the deck. Pete Hegseth can claim that we're watching them do this, that, and the other thing, but clearly we don't watch them do this, that, and the other thing, because, that Air Force that we said we destroyed 100%, it's up and flying right now. The Navy that we said we destroyed, it's in control of the Strait of Hormuz with ships out there delivering mines. Every aspect of Iran's military has survived this conflict. We have effectively done nothing except show that we are impotent. Do we really want to put that on display again? And I think not. The other thing is there's certain realities. Europe runs out of aviation fuel in 11 days. That means the entire European aviation industry ceases to function. The price, I just bought a airline ticket. The fuel surcharge was, about 1/3 of the cost of the ticket. And it's going to go up because it's gone crazy. Trump can't afford to go to war with Iran to continue this war. He needs this conflict to end. Trump has a political problem here at home. He can sell, his lies and his con game to his base, but his base is reducing. There's people spinning off the base. People aren't buying into his line anymore. And if he's going to, reconvince people, he needs to put something on the table. He needs to bring an end to this conflict and then, spend the next month or so telling people how he's the greatest thing in the world, that this peace wouldn't have happened without him, and see if he can go into the summer with some sort of momentum. And it's not impossible. The economic difficulties we have right now, if he can get energy flowing, if he can get the price of energy down, he'll have one of those artificial boosts come summer, where the problems that he's responsible for go away. And he says, it's because of me. I'm the greatest thing in the world. And maybe he convinces enough people so that the Republicans can hold on to the House in November, which is what this is all about. If you think this is about real national security issues, you don't know Donald Trump. This isn't about national security. This is about Donald Trump's trying to salve an inferior political position, one that if he doesn't reverse course, will destroy his political legacy. If the Republicans lose the House in November, it's over for Donald Trump. It's over. He'll spend the next 2 years being impeached, and that's all he'll be known for. And if he continues to play stupid games, he could lose the Senate, and then he'll be impeached and convicted. So Trump can't afford for this war to continue. So I think we're going to see a lot more positive spin coming out from Trump, where he's going to try and say that he's responsible for all these things happening.
Yeah, and Scott, he's almost guaranteeing that in the next number of days we have, or maybe a few days, that there's going to be some kind of deal reached. And of course, it's being framed as a deal that's going to be completely favorable to what he claims are U.S. interests. But then there's the for Trump, he's also saying that this blockade that has been 5 days or so in the running is going to continue, despite the fact that the Strait of Iran, according to him, has been reopened. What do you make of this? Because it's very contradictory. Of course, oil prices. You mentioned elections and the price of energy and all of that. Obviously, a major part of this, maybe the part of this that is influencing his actions and his administration's actions. But it's always very contradictory, and of course, the volatility of these markets is very sometimes predictable and very unpredictable, leading to your conclusions, I think, being very apt. So talk about what you think of this blockade continuing despite this. Is this all just huff and puff, or is this just more warmongering amidst an attempt to still get an off ramp at the same time, which seems to be a big play recently? Yeah.
What blockade are we talking about?
Yeah, the one that was supposedly declared 4 or 5 days ago, where in the CENTCOM has been saying they're interdicting
the entire Indian Ocean.
Yep,
that one. The one where American ships can't get anywhere within 20 miles of the Iranian coast without fear of being sunk. Therefore, all ships transiting the Indian Ocean out of the Strait of Hormuz hug the Iranian coast and aren't interdicted by the U.S. Navy. The one where China says, pound sand, we're doing whatever the hell we want and you won't touch us because that'll be the end of you. That one, the one where the Russians say, I dare you to touch a Russian ship. That one, that blockade. Yeah, no, there is no blockade. It's again, this is part of the game that Donald Trump's playing, to be seen, to create perception. But there's no blockade, none whatsoever.
Yeah, and then there's the ceasefire element. I mean, Iran had, as you know, Scott, this 10-point proposal that's been around for a really long time, well before negotiations started between the U.S. and Iran. And a big part of it was, a cessation and a real end to hostilities on all of the fronts in the region, the resistance fronts. And now we are in this 10-day ceasefire period. I'm curious on your thoughts on, obviously these two developments are linked, but at the same time, we have a history here that we need to, I think, consider. And how do you think Iran is going about this in terms of moving on in these negotiations with the United States amidst the ceasefire? And then, of course, the reasons and the roots of the ceasefire itself. Anything you want to comment on this?
Well, look, we just have to get down to basic fact A. America lost the war. That's why America was looking for an off-ramp. If we were winning the war, we wouldn't be looking for an off-ramp. We just keep hammering away till the Iranians surrendered. We're the ones that said we need this thing to come to an end because our bases were being eviscerated. Israel had no more defense. Iran's missiles got stronger and stronger, and we had reached the limit of our escalatory capabilities with conventional weapons. The next step would have been literal cultural genocide. I mean, that's what Trump was talking about, the erasure of Iranian civilization. Not that he would have been able to do it, but the measures that would have had to have been undertaken to, put action to those words would have been war crimes beyond belief. So bad that I believe that American generals told the president, no, we're not doing this. This is why he had to find an off-ramp, because the military balked and said, we're not committing war crimes on your behalf. Then there was the failed raid against the Isfahan, nuclear storage facility. We can't make an amphibious assault on Karg Island because we'd lose everybody. Trump had no cards. It was done, finished. So he sought this off-ramp. Remember that, because he sought this off-ramp. There's a reason. And the reason was America couldn't accomplish its mission. So what is he doing? Setting us up to do what? Accomplish a mission we already know we can't accomplish. No, he wants a peace deal. But it has to be a peace deal that's politically viable for him. He sent J.D. Vance to Islamabad together with, Kushner and Witkoff. They were this close to a final deal. This close. The Iranians came loaded for bear. The Iranians came with all the documents, all the facts, the whole thing, and they were this close to nailing down a deal. Why? Because Iran holds all the cards. All the cards. But the problem is, if the United States accepted the Islamabad Memorandum of Understanding, then it would be clear that the Americans were defeated, and that's politically unacceptable for Trump. So Trump scuttled the negotiations, sent the high-profile teams back to their respective countries, and then started playing stupid games, bluster, blockade, this, that, the other thing. Meanwhile, the negotiations are still taking place. I don't think many people realize that, but the United States left a big technical team, and the Iranians left a big technical team, and they're working out all the details to finalize the Islamabad Memorandum of Understanding. And at the appropriate time, Trump will come in, and once he's created the perception that his intervention made this deal possible, he will implement this deal. And that's where we are. Everything else is just gamesmanship. Everything else is just theater. Lebanon's an interesting issue because, the Hezbollah conflict is not an extension of the Israeli-Iranian conflict. The Israeli-Hezbollah conflict is because Israel occupies Lebanon. That's it. Israel stops occupying Lebanon and Hezbollah goes away. It's not an issue. So, that's always going to be a more nuanced, difficult problem that's not going to be resolved as part of this comprehensive peace plan. There needed to be a ceasefire, but I don't believe that the deal that's going to be cut in Islamabad is going to solve the Lebanese problem. It'll leave the door open for a solution to be figured out at a future point. But at some point in time, Israel and Hezbollah are going to continue to go at it because the Lebanese government has sold out to Israel. As long as Israel continues to occupy southern Lebanon, it will be resisted, and that conflict will never end until Israel is evicted from southern Lebanon. Iran will continue to support Hezbollah, and that's just the reality of it. That'll be its own little war. Ansarallah, look, Ansarallah is getting ready to shut down the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. If they do that, it's a death sentence to Saudi Arabia's energy-based economy, which has diverted the bulk of their oil export capacity from the east to the west through a pipeline. I think that this one's readily resolved. I think that this one is directly linked to a termination of this. Ansarallah will always loom until there's a solution to Israel-Gaza. There's going to be some unresolved issues once the basic U.S.-Iranian conflict ends. But the important thing for the Iranians, and this is what people need to understand, because I just hear people saying, why would Iran do this? Why would Iran agree to this? Why would they got them by the balls? Why not just keep squeezing them, man? Well, the guys are saying they got them by the balls, keep squeezing. You're the one sitting safely at your desk at home. Don't have to worry about anything. But if you're an Iranian that for 5 decades now has lived in an economy that's been constrained by economic sanctions, economy that's never been able to live up to its potential, with Security Council resolutions plastered on, IAEA resolutions plastered on, unable to, effectively engage with BRICS, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, to invest into the Eurasian Economic Union. I mean, all these things. And suddenly you have the possibility where all sanctions are going to be lifted. No more constraints. You're in total control of your economy, control of your economic future, who you do business with, how you do business. Suddenly, the Iranian government can deliver on 5 decades of promises to the Iranian people of a better life. Do you guys maybe understand now why Iran might say, I'll let go of their balls? Because Iran doesn't exist to squeeze the balls of the West. Iran exists to do right by the Iranian people. And now there's a chance for that to happen. So this is a huge Iranian victory, a huge Iranian victory.
Yeah, and then that's sad. You mentioned those resistance fronts too. Iran will achieve all this without having, contrary to what some believe, or what I've even gotten messages about, they've done this all without abandoning these resistance fronts. In fact, even if these problems aren't resolved, which they can't, you're exactly right, they can't be resolved. Israel is Israel, and it's going to continue to try to terrorize and continue to occupy and do what it does against Lebanon, Gaza, all of that. It's not going to stop. But at the same time, Iran can achieve this victory and continue to support those fronts. And it'll make it a lot harder. Then the U.S. will look very foolish to then reverse all of this just because Iran is going to continue to support these fronts. So politically, it is a very interesting moment, and geopolitically, because it signals that, as you said, Iran holds the cards, and that these cards, they kind of exist in perpetuity, and it will affect the future of how the U.S., if it continues to want to conduct regime change against Iran or try to Israel, all of this moment just doesn't go away. It will. There's a foundation here that's very interesting. Your comments on this? I've been thinking about this for a few days.
Yeah, let me jump in on this one, because Iran holds cards right now because we're in a state of conflict. But you do understand that the game changes once you de-emphasize the military and you re-emphasize, or you start emphasizing the economic. Iran can't play it both ways. Iran doesn't get to hold the balls and then go play BRICS, international, economic participant. They're going to have to release. And when they do that, now Iran becomes part of the global economy. And that's a whole different game where different stresses can be brought to play, different restrictions, etc. And so, what happens when Iran joins BRICS? Now Iran becomes a hostage to Indian-Chinese animosity. They're in the middle of that now. They've got to play that. You see, the world doesn't become, totally simple for Iran. It becomes far more complicated, in fact, when Iran now has to operate, in accordance with the rule books, in accordance with the rules of fair competition. Iran has been playing the sanctions violation game for decades. They're used to, floating ships out in the open sea, waiting for markets to open up, offloading. They're not going to be doing that anymore. They're going to be part of the free and open economy, and they're going to have to compete. And I think it's going to be great for Iran. But the idea that Iran emerges from this retaining this superiority that it's gained through this victory, that's not the case at all, because Iran will have to learn how to live in peace and harmony with its regional neighbors. It's not going to be able to sit there in a permanent state of conflict and tension and hostility. And that now we come down to the Strait of Hormuz. This is going to be fascinating to see how this plays out. I think that Iran has earned a right to say that they, in a period of time, for security guarantees, must retain control over the Strait of Hormuz as a way of leveraging everybody to make sure that everybody abides by their agreements. But Iran wants to join the family of nations, which means Iran wants to comply with the rule book, which is the United Nations Charter and the foundation of international law that's derived therefrom. And one of that is the law of the sea. The Strait of Hormuz is an international waterway, openly recognized as such. And for Iran suddenly unilaterally to declare that it's not, that it belongs to them, puts Iran smack dab in violation of international law, where Iran doesn't want to be. So I do think there's going to be some sort of compromise. However they work this out, I don't know, but I could imagine a 10 to 15 year treaty with Iran, the United States, and the Gulf Arab states, which creates, Iran has, control, but others are involved too, that money will be collected and distributed for reconstruction purposes. for a period of time. But like any toll booth that's linked to the construction of a highway, I'm thinking of the New York State Thruway, where once you pay it off, you're supposed to stop collecting tolls. Of course, New York State will never do that because they always want the money. But the point is, at some point in time, Iran will have to relinquish control of the Strait of Hormuz back to the international community. That's just a requirement of international law, and Iran is a nation that wants to comply. So I think there's going to be some compromise there. Everybody's saying Iran's going to control this forever. No, they're not. It's impossible for Iran to control it forever. That would create a huge problem for Kuwait, Iraq, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain. Qatar. None of them are going to allow that to happen. The United States won't allow that to happen because that means that Iran now controls the throttle for the global economy. It's unacceptable. But Iran earned the right to be able to have that control of the throttle for the near term as a security guarantee, given the fact that the United States and Israel have shown no ability to tell the truth, to negotiate in good faith, to act with perfidy in mind. I do think Iran is in a good position to